Let's speak today about one of the most influenced genres inside metal, and I'm speaking about the new wave of British heavy metal. The new wave of British heavy metal was a style of music that started, of course, in Britain, in England, in the 80s, and the albums and the bands of this genre influenced so much afterwards the thrash metal, and not only the whole scene of heavy metal, thrash metal, even of black and death metal afterwards. For me, I will speak here about my favorite albums of this genre. So, first of all, the best album of this genre for me is, of course, the first album, the debut of NWOBHM. Unfortunately, NWOBHM they didn't have success and like this album, but it is a very, very, very good album. And I'm continue with another band that became famous afterwards, but a band that influenced also Metallica and also Megadeth and also the thrash scene, and I'm speaking about Diamond Head and the album Lightning to the Nations, an album that many songs of this album were covered afterwards by Metallica. Another also band of new wave of British heavy metal that was song of them was covered by Metallica is the band Blitzkrieg. A very good album. And if we are speaking about Blitzkrieg show and the album A Time of Changes, let's speak about the same singer that he has, and he had another also band, and I'm speaking about Satan and their album Caught in the Act. From this band afterwards was born Skyclad, from them, and from also from the thrashers, English thrashers Sabbath, was born the band Skyclad, the forefathers of folk metal. And now, of course, we are not speaking about Motorhead. Motorhead, Motorhead, they were even before the British heavy metal, the new wave of British heavy metal, but they influenced very much the scene. And there are three also groups of these years, of this genre, that they had a very big connection musically and not only with Motorhead. And let's speak first of all about Tank and their album Filth Hounds of Hades. A very good album that started this sound that Motorhead continued it afterwards, continued by Venom and afterwards by Sodom, until today by Toxic Holocaust, for example, or of the band of Midnight in the United States. And if we're speaking about Motorhead and album and the bands and albums that are very close to their sound, let's speak also about another famous new wave of British heavy metal band, one of the first female bands with all the members female, and in these years in the 80s it was something special. And of course I'm speaking about Girls' School and their album Demolition. And I'm continuing with another band that was very close to Motorhead and one of the most famous new wave of British heavy metal bands, and I'm speaking about Saxon, and here I'm bringing their album Hills of Steel. Now, of course everybody knows that the most famous band of all this genre is of course Iron Maiden, and for me it's my favorite band. And if we speak about Iron Maiden and this kind of new wave of British heavy metal, I prefer to speak about their first albums, and my favorite of this first period of Iron Maiden, the album Killers, their second album. Another album and another band of new wave of British heavy metal, that one song of them was covered by Gamma Ray afterwards, Heavy Metal Mania, and I'm speaking about Holocaust and the album The Nightcomers. And I'm continuing with another band that was very close to what we are speaking afterwards. We called it speed metal or thrash metal. A band that with the name Raven and their album Rock Until You Drop. Okay, here also I could speak about Tokyo Blade, about Jaguar, or about Praying Mantis or Clovenhoof, but I'm continuing with another band, little bit not so famous, and even more melodical. I'm speaking about Demon and their album Night of the Demon, because we can say that this band, together with Blue Oyster Cult, maybe they are the forefathers of today's Swedish band of Ghost. And last and not least, let's speak about Venom. Okay, Venom. They started with a new wave of British heavy metal, but they are not exactly inside this scene. And they brought the whole sound of Motorhead to another level. Okay? And of course I'm speaking about their first albums, Welcome to Hell, and for me the first album, but for me their best album is the second album, Black Metal, of course. This is about the whole thing about the new wave of British heavy metal from Israel and from Jerusalem. Stay heavy and stay metal.